And we are online. Okay, this is week 3. We'll start new project. And today what we'll do, we'll build a simple calculator. It's lab 3. Week 3. We'll build a simple calculator. I'm doing the same thing that I did last week, right? So I'm building this app for phone and tablet, API 15. Make sure that you stick to those settings so you have the same options later on that I have, right? I'm selecting empty activity. Today, again, we'll be working with an application that has only one activity, right? We'll start with empty screen, main activity. That's fine for us. Let's finish that. Close the other window. Remember that there is this bug when it generates a new project. The name of the parent style or theme for the application is incorrect, right? Prevents application from rendering correctly. We have to add base to the name to fix it quickly. Remember about that fix. This is what we are adding. And we'll start our work from activity main, from the layout, right? What we need to build, we need to have a standard layout for the calculator. So label on top, below buttons, we'll have how many rows? 4 or 5 rows of buttons, right? Digits plus operations plus equal and clear button. That's all we need, right? It won't be a scientific calculator, just a simple calculator, right? So what I will start with, I have the label here, so I don't have to add more labels. What I want to do for this label, I want to remove this constraint that is holding it down, right? So you can either do it from here and click on the dot to remove it, or you can click here, right? It turns into X. You click it, it goes automatically up, right? We can add some margins, let's say 16 points from each side, mean top and on sides. And I want this label to be big. I want to stretch it, right? So my layout width will be changed from wrap content to match constraint, right? And you can see that it's stretched. Also, what I want to do, I want to change the style of this label. And I could do it, you know, digging through the through all the options and changing the style, hard coding the style, the size of the font, or I can select the style that already exists and is one that I like. If you find the attribute called text appearance and you check the combo, there should be app compat display 1 or app compat display 2. Both of them give you nice big font. One more thing that I want to change for this label is an attribute called gravity. We'll be working with numbers. Numbers should be aligned to the right. So what I'm doing right now, from this short view of attributes, I'm switching to the long one, and I want to find gravity. The list of options, right? You can select more than one. What we need really is here. We want to align it to the to the right. So that's one. And final thing, hello world is not necessarily a good number for the calculator, right? 0 is what we want to show. So we have to change text. Now, in terms of buttons, we can use many different approaches, right? The most annoying one would be adding one by one the buttons and then build constraints so they look good. We won't do that today. That would take us probably 2 days. We could use the different layouts, right? There is a table layout that potentially could be used. What I want to use today, and I use that with 2 other groups, we'll nest 2 layouts inside the one that we currently have. We'll use linear layout, horizontal and vertical. They're really easy to use, and they allow you to automatically build rows and columns, which is what I really need, right? So I will use linear layout vertical, and I will add it to my constraint. Actually, not here, but below the label, right? Here is the layout that I want. And since we are here, I will add the constraints automatically, right? So I want this layout to be attached, but I want it to be attached to the label, right? So I will find, I'm switching to the long view of constraints. I will find the constraint that is called top to bottom of, should be somewhere on the bottom of this list. Top to bottom of. And there is a combo. We can select parent. Why cannot we select the text view? Doesn't have ID? Yeah, it doesn't have ID. We have to make sure that this text view has an ID, right? And now we can go to the layout and we can modify top to the bottom of, and we have a text view, right? It's attached here. And the second thing that we want to do, and that's something that we can do from this view, we can attach it to the bottom of the parent and to both margins, right? And again, we can add some margin. So it looks nice.
Which layout should have ID?
The text view. Text view.
What was the ID?
Text view.
Text.
That will be the only text view in our application, so it's fine, right? And one more thing that we have to change, the height of our layout is set to match parent, which means that we are stretching it as far as we can to fill the whole screen. We have to change it to match constraint. You see that the blue rectangle is shrinking, right? And also width of the layout, we'll change it to match constraint. So we have a nice margin on the side, right? So both the layout width and layout height has to be modified. And now we'll be adding more layouts into this vertical layout. And those layouts, the internal layouts will be horizontal, linear layout horizontal, because those will be our rows of buttons, right? So I'm adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layouts. Each of them will have to, for each of them, we'll have to change the layout height from match parent. Again, by default, it is stretched to fill in the parent space to wrap content, right? So for each of them, we'll do the same thing, wrap content. Wrap content, wrap content, and the last one, wrap content. Also, each of them should have the layout weight set to 1. 1, 1, and 1. What layout weight is used for, it is used to distribute views inside the linear layout. So the whole width of the, or height of the layout, depending on which direction we are talking about, is the sum of all weights, right? And each layout inside it will have weight divided by the total sum of weights. That will be the space given to the element, right? And now what we'll do, we'll fill in the first layout with buttons, right? So I'm going to buttons and dragging buttons. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have 4 buttons. I will configure those buttons the way I want, right? So for example, I will change their height to much parent. It will be big buttons, easy to operate. Right, each of them will have the same height, much parent, much parent, much parent. I'll be changing IDs in a second, but now I don't want to do all that manually, right? So I would have to add another 4 rows of buttons one by one. That would take a little bit of time. What I will do, I will switch to the text, scroll down, take my buttons, copy, and I will paste them into those layouts here. 1, 2, and 3. The last line, the bottommost layout, will contain only 1 button. So I'm taking only 1 of them and pasting it here. If I switch to design, I should have that. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and a big button on the bottom. Sorry?
I missed some setting and it's not showing.
It's all stuck to the bottom, to the top?
Top right, top left.
You didn't change the constraints, right? What you have
for the linear layout vertical, I think.
Yeah. So this layout, if you switch to the long view, yes, and to the constraints,
yes,
you should see this, right? Bottom, top to off should be set to parent. Yes. End to end off should be set to parent. Start to start off parent. And top to bottom off should be attached to the text view. So that's one thing. Second thing that you have to do for each layout that you have to change the height of the layout to wrap content.
Yes. Yes. Okay, that's it?
Yeah.
Я когда прихожу, по создателю удаляю и все сразу, знаешь, предыдущего юзера. Короче, окей, я все удалил. Короче, чувак какой-то не отлагинился. Тут, грубо говоря, были блокады. видео. Я нажимаю Gmail, надо логинить его почту. Да, то есть клиент. После того, как ты удаляешь, ну, я обычно все удаляю, все будешь, не было ничего, что я все. А вот, короче, я отвалился. Я нажал Gmail, и я звоню на свою почту. Ну, конечно же, я сразу пишу, на самом деле, что это не должно быть. Написать, сказать, что можешь это сделать.
Видишь, они помогают, как ты можешь
Sometimes when you remove it, it changes the constraints of it. Okay, so we are back. Now what do we have to do? We have to make sure that all the buttons have unique IDs. Because we've been copy-pasting them, we need to make sure that they have unique IDs. Right, so what I will be doing right now, I'll be changing both the ID of the button and the text that is shown on the button, right? And we will have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, so going from the last one will be button 9. The text will be 9. Button 8. And the text 8. And so on, right? I will do the numerical buttons first, and then we'll add some functional buttons. That should be 7. Manual work, right? 4. 3. 2. 1. And this will be 0. 0. We'll have a button that will show comma, right? So this will be a dot. This big one on the bottom will be our button equal. So the text will be equal sign. This one will be clear button, so C. And here will be plus. We'll have subtraction, so minus. We'll have multiplication, that will be a star, and division. The slash. That's our UI. We have buttons with unique IDs. Sorry. We have, each of them has their own label. It's ready. If you want to change the text appearance, you can do that, right? You can make it bigger if you want. Simple addition, right? If you simple edit if you want to change that. I will leave it as it is to speed up our work a little bit, right? Because now we have to start programming. We have UI ready, right? I'm saving this and I'm switching to the main activity. And I will start with defining all the variables that I need. I need references to all my buttons, right? So button will be button 0, button 1, 2, 3, 4. Numerical buttons, and then button comma button equal button plus button minus button division, button multiplication, button clear. I'll also have a text view. I'll call it TV for short. And for calculation, I will have two floats. Value 1 and value 2, like thing 1 and thing 2. I will also define right now a function. I will fill in the body of this function in a second. The function will return float. It will be called calculate. It will be private function. In this function, I will do the calculations, right? So right now, return 0, so it compiles, but I will have to get back to this function in a second. And one more thing, I need to know when I'm pressing the buttons, right? I need to know which operation is selected, because I don't have both operands at the same time, right? If you think about how we'll work with the calculator, right? Person will enter the number, press the operation. We'll have to remember the first operand. We'll have to remember what is the operation. Let user enter the second operand, press equal or any other operation, and then we'll perform the action, right? So we need to know what is the action. So what I will do, I will define enum operation non plus minus div multi, and I will define also a variable OP. By default, it will be set to operation none, and in that variable, I will remember what is the actual operation selected by the user. I'm adding this none to indicate that no buttons, operational buttons were pressed, right? I will do one trick. For all the numerical buttons, I will use one listener. And for operational buttons, I will use another one. So let's do that. First, I will have to initialize all my variables, all the buttons and text views, right? So TV equals find view by ID, r.id text view. One done. Now the buttons. You're nodding, you know that it will be the same line over and over again with different IDs, right? Button 0, find view by ID, r, ID, button 0. I'm very lazy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are my numerical buttons, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I have to do the same thing with IDs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now the operational buttons, right? Comma, plus, minus, division, multiplication, and clear. Plus, minus, multiplication, division, equal, clear. Oh, we are missing one. And comma. Equal C, comma. QP. Let's define the listener for our numerical buttons. This is very easy, very simple listener, right? I will have on click listener, listener, new on click listener. What do we need to do with the numerical buttons? We'll need to take the label, the text that is displayed on the button, that's a digit, and we have to concatenate it with the digits that are shown in the label, right? Unless there is 0 displayed, then we have to replace the 0 with our text, right? So if tv.getText.toString equals to 0, then we have to replace. Right, and I will leave the comment here. Else, concatenate. To access easily the text on the button, what I will do, I will cast the view that is given to me as a parameter, because this will be the reference to the button. digit t dot get text dot to string. That's the digit that I need, right? If the calculator shows 0, then I will do tv dot set text digit. So I'm replacing the text. Else, tv dot set text tv dot get text to string plus digit. Else I'm concatenating. Simple. Now I have to assign this listener to all the numerical buttons, right? So button 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Set on-click listener. Num listener. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This should resolve issue with the digit. We can do very similar thing with comma. Right, so for the button comma, I will move this up here. For button comma, we have to do very similar operation. Set on click listener, new on click listener. What we'll need to do, we'll need to add a dot, unless there is a dot already there, right? So if tv dot get text dot toString dot contains a dot, we simply return else we concatenate, right? So tv, we have this code over here, right? That's concatenation. But not the digit. Dot. You cannot have more than one dot in your number, right? So if there is one already, you ignore the action. Otherwise, you add a dot and you continue. Okay? Clear is also simple. And let's take it up here. Button C dot set on click listener, new listener. What do we need to do when we press the clear button? Clear the display and clear the action, right? So OP will be set to operation none, and tv dot set text 0. What is left? Only the buttons that are doing actual operations, right? I will leave the equal button for later. And I will focus right now on operations like plus, minus, times, and division, right? Again, I will create a new instance of onClick listener. OnClick listener equals new listener. What do we need to do here? If no operations was selected before, then I have to check, I have to grab the number from the label, store it in number 1 or whatever was the name, value 1. I have to remember what is the operation and wait for the user to enter the second part, right? Second operand. But I may have a situation when the operation was selected before, right? Then I have to take whatever is on the label, store it as a value 2, perform the calculation with the currently selected operation, display it on the screen, or not even display, but store it as value 1, right? So I have two options. If OP is equal to operation none, which means that this is the first case, right? I didn't select any operation yet. Else, I have operation selected. If this is a new thing, right, then I have to grab whatever I have and store it in value 1. So value 1 is equal to tv dot get text, get text dot toString. But we have to parse this as a float, right? So float dot parse float. And our TV will show set text will show 0, right? We reset the display to allow user to enter another number, another operand. Else, I have option, I have some operation selected, means that I have to calculate, well, I have to store the value that is displayed in value 2. Value 2 is equal to this. And then value 1 is equal to calculate. We have to reset the screen, right? TV dot set text 0, and depending on the button that was pressed, we have to select the operation, right? So switch p dot get ID case r dot ID dot button plus OP will be equal to operation plus break we'll have to repeat this for all the operations that we have, right? So we'll have button minus, and then the operation will be minus. We'll have button division and the operation division and multiplication and operation will be multiplication. That's it. Right? That's all we need to do. Now let's implement the calculate function, the function that we are calling here. Because right now it returns 0. Okay. We assume that value 1 and value 2 is set, right? So what we have to do, we have to recognize what is the operation, right? Switch OP case. We have plus minus multiplication and division, and we'll have default. If it's plus, it's easy. Return value 1 plus value 2. If it's minus, multiplication is also easy. Times value 2. What with division? Can I simply return? Can I divide by 0? I can't, right? So if value 2 is not 0, and my case is easy, return value 1 divided by value 2, else return float not a number, right? It's incorrect. And default, if something goes wrong, will return the same thing, float, not a number.
Float not a number, is it an error or?
It will indicate an error, right? It will show in the label as NaN, not a number.
Or we can just define custom error, right?
Yeah, you could do that as well, right? Custom message. But because this is treated as a float, right? So it simplifies our implementation. We return this, and then we can display it for the user, right? Okay. We're good to go. There is one button that is left for implementation. You agree with me, right? And that is the equal button. Oh, and we didn't assign the listeners for the operations to the buttons, right? So we have to do button plus set on click listener OP listener, and we'll have to repeat this for minus, multiplication and division, right? Will be minus multi and division. And the last one that is left for us today is button equal. All right, button equal will have a very similar implementation. New on-click listener to those operations, but we don't have to perform anything, right? We have to complete the operation that is there, right? So if OP is not operation on, means that we have to grab something that is already in the memory, store it in value 2, right? So value 2, we have this code actually here. Where is it? Here. This is the case, right? Value 2. We are getting the text. We have to perform the calculation, and we have to do something else, not set the value to 0, but we have to display tv.setText value 1. That's empty string, so it converts automatically, right? Sorry. So that's in the situation when we have operation selected. If nothing was selected, we have nothing to do, right? The display remains the same. We don't have to do anything. Do we have implementation for all the buttons? Let's check. We have numerical buttons. We have the comma. We have clear, that is resetting the screen. We have plus minus multiplication and division with all the cases. And we have button equal. It seems we have the complete implementation for our calculator. We can test it. Hold your fingers crossed so it doesn't blue screen on me again.